11.6. Welcome to VW 11.6. Today we'll be finishing up our study of hyperbolas. So first, let's recap our formulas. We have x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Remember that a is first. And if a is first and under the x squared, that means it must hit your x-axis. So it'll be oriented like this. So we'll put that hits x-axis. And the other version is if it's flipped around. So y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared. If that equals 1, then our orientation will be vertical, meaning it hits the y-axis. And in this top box, let's not forget our formula that ties everything together. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. And then we have our point and slope form for lines, which is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. And that's everything we're going to need here. So our first question, find an equation for the hyperbola with a center at 1, negative 2. Let's start by putting our info box. So here's our box. Our center is 1, negative 2. And they give us some information, so let's just write down generically vertex, EMA, focus, and then our asymptotes. And let's just sketch what we know so far. Center's at 1, negative 2. Focus at 4, negative 2. And a vertex at 3, negative 2. So just by having this information, we can see that here to here is A, so A must be 2. And then center to focus is 3, so C must be 3. So that's already really helpful, because that would mean that if there's a vertex right here, I can make a vertex on the other side by going 2 units left. And the focus should be 1 more unit past that, so I'll put 1 more tick. There's our focus. And now I can label that. So the vertex should be 1 plus or minus 2 comma negative 2. And our focus should be 1 plus or minus 3 comma negative 2. We don't have our EMA, so let's write down our formula. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. C squared is 3, a is 2, so I can see that b squared must be 5, so b is the root of 5. Now let's fill that in. Root of 5 is about a little more than 2, so 1, 2, and a little past that, so maybe like right here is our EMA. 1, 2, and let's make our box. The box should go from your EMA to your vertex. And now we can sketch. All right, so there's a nice hyperbola, and we can fill in everything else now. The EMA should be 1 comma negative 2 plus or minus the root of 5. And our asymptote, so remember the asymptote, we have to use the center point. The center is 1, negative 2, so I already know that's going to be y plus 2 is equal to something times x minus 1. For the slope, I need the rise and the run, so this rise is root 5, and the run is 2. So plus or minus root 5 over 2. And the final touch is the equation. So notice how it's a x squared orientation. So I know it's x minus 1 squared over something minus y plus 2 squared over something equals 1. Remember that these are going to match up with your asymptotes very nicely, so you can verify that here. And now look under the x term for the a value, and that's going to be 2 squared, so that's 4, and b squared is 5. And there's our equation. Now for the last example, it says write it in standard conic form. So essentially we're just going to complete the square. So I'm going to notice that the x squared is negative, so I want to put this y squared first. So 4y squared minus 16y, I'll put a blank. Now I have minus x squared minus 2x blank, and that equals, let's move this 11, so that would be negative 11. Now let's complete the square, and we got a few algebra tricks here. We'll factor the 4 out, so that would be minus 4y. So I know that I need a plus 4 here, but when you multiply it back in, that's actually a plus 16. So I gotta do plus 16 here. And on the other part, this minus is actually really important, because when you factor that out, you get x squared plus 2x. And this shows me that I need a plus 1 here. Now, when you multiply this back in, what's tricky is that negative matters. That actually means this is a negative 1, which means on the other side I need a negative 1 to match it. Now I keep going. 4 times y minus 2 squared minus x plus 1 squared, and that's going to be 4. Now we're pretty much done. Divide everything by 4. Y minus 2 squared minus x plus 1 squared over 4 is equal to 1. And there's our standard conic form, and we can figure everything out past that if we had to. But in your homework, you'll stop there when it asks for standard conic form.